Thanks for tuning in to yet another episode of With Just 15 Defeats. I'm Teekosey, and today we've got something a bit special. We're going to be discussing and evaluating who Anthony Joshua might fight next in 2017. So if you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you for your continued support of Teekosey Boxing. If you have the time, please check out my channel, as just a few days ago I released a video where I discussed the merits of both Anthony Joshua and Tyson Fury's victories over Wladimir Klitschko and which one was the more impressive victory, and I urge you to go and check out that video. So Anthony Joshua now holds the IBF title, which he won from Charles Martin earlier last year, but also now holds the super version of the WBA title and also vacant IBO strap. And now that he holds two prestigious titles, he has a number of options available to him. First on the list is possibly the most likely, and that is Kubrat Pulev. He is the mandatory challenger to the IBF title, the strap that Anthony Joshua defended against Wladimir Klitschko. Now, the IBF have come out and said that Anthony Joshua must defend in his next fight against Kubrat Pulev. And let's not forget, they have set the precedent in relieving champions of their title. We saw that with Tyson Fury just 1 year ago. Kubrat Pulev is an exceptional boxer. I think he is one of the best heavyweight boxers at present. He hasn't really had the opportunity to show it. He hasn't taken on big fights, but he does have a depth of skill that many of the heavyweight boxers do not have. Unfortunately for him, he does lack a little bit of power, and because of that, that's what I believe would make an interesting fight against Anthony Joshua. Now, the next on the list is Luis Ortiz. Now, fun enough, he's also in a mandatory position to challenge Anthony Joshua. This has come about because the Anthony Joshua versus Wladimir Klitschko was also for the super version of the WBA title. This I thought was a strange decision. The WBA title itself is currently vacant. I'm not sure why. Well, I know why they decided to sanction this as a version of the super belt, because it's all money. But the fact that the normal regular version of the WBA heavyweight championship was vacant and it's going to be competed for in about 4 to 5 weeks means this is really nothing. Now, the WBA also went on record last week saying that once the super version of the WBA title is won, there will be a mandatory challenger in Luis Ortiz. Crazy, I know. I can't see them being able to push this through. I think the Luis Ortiz fight is somewhat unlikely. Now, we saw Luis Ortiz fighting under the Matchroom banner just last year, towards the end of the year. So, for me, at the end of last year, I could see a path where Anthony Joshua fought Luis Ortiz. I could see it all happening. But since then, he's moved away from the Matchroom banner, and I just don't think the Luis Ortiz fight will happen, despite this mandatory position. And I do not believe that they will vacate the super version of the title, because it just makes a mockery of even putting this on this fight. Now, the next person in line is Deontay Wilder. A lot of people say he's the number one in the heavyweight division. He's undefeated in 38 victories with 37 KOs, the best record in the heavyweight division. However, like a lot of heavyweights today, his record is somewhat wanting. Since becoming a champion in 2015, his opponents have been average to okay, without being exceptional. It's unfortunate that the proposed fight against Povetkin never happened. He has been unfortunate with opponents and also injuries. But we know that Deontay Wilder is an exceptional fighter with phenomenal athleticism and punch power. And a matchup against Anthony Joshua really would be a matchup of the KO Kings. As well as being two Olympic medalists, it would be a fight that I would really look forward to watching and analysing before, during and after. Again, it's a potential fight, but for me, I don't think it's going to happen. I believe there was some talk of Bermane Stiverne, who Deontay Wilder won the title from, being back in line for a mandatory challenge after his own fight against Alexander Povetkin fell through. But for Deontay Wilder, he really needs to step up. He needs to fight an opponent of high caliber in 2017 without a shadow of a doubt. Anthony Joshua would be that person. And as he came over and did commentary for Sky TV here in the UK, I think he was trying to engineer it. But for me, I haven't seen enough from him that really would help him get that fight. The fourth candidate is Joseph Parker, the current WBA heavyweight champion, who won that vacant title against Andy Ruiz Jr. in an incredibly tough fight, where he was somewhat unconvincing as an elite fighter. He was in line to fight Hughie just next week. That has fallen through. He's got a short notice opponent who he should walk through fairly comfortably. And because of this, I can't see Joseph Parker being on the radar of Anthony Joshua anytime soon. Definitely not in the next two fights. But having said that, I do like Joseph Parker. I think he's an exceptional boxer. I think there's a lot of positives to his game. But if you've watched any of my videos in the past, I have been somewhat critical of Joseph Parker because he has been somewhat unconvincing in the big fights. Now, looking outside the box, there are two other potential candidates which I think could be the potential money spinners here in the UK, which could capture the imagination of the public. And that is firstly Dillian Whyte, who is fighting in a couple of weeks at the O2. If he gets through that, it could be the case that he's looking for a world title fight, and the rematch with Anthony Joshua would be big, big news. It would sell very, very easily here in the UK. I think both fighters have improved, and it would be a fight that I would definitely look forward to. The second is a potential fight with Tony Bellew. This fight I don't think will have any chance of happening, but it's something that they could talk their way into. I think it would be an interesting fight. Anthony Joshua, I think, would win fairly comfortably. I think his size and power would be just too much for Tony Bellew. And anyway, I believe that there's only one fight for Tony Bellew left in his career, and that is the rematch with David Haye. I think that will happen as long as both guys can become healthy within the next 6 months. We're likely to see that towards the end of the year. Now, the last potential opponent for Anthony Joshua to fight next, you may have guessed it, it's the rematch with Wladimir Klitschko. We're led to believe that there is a rematch clause in the contract, and there's been some talk that Klitschko is interested in activating it. Many people assumed that after the fight and the fact that Joshua won, that Klitschko would announce his retirement, having been defeated by two British fighters. And considering he is now 41, it could have been a good time to call it a day. But we know that Wladimir is a fighting champion. And if he believes that he could beat Anthony Joshua in a rematch, I'm sure he would take it. And I'm sure the fact that he will be paid exceptionally handsomely for it would be very enticing. We saw in the Anthony Joshua fight that he definitely held his own. He even knocked Anthony Joshua down. He looked like he was going to be able to even stop Anthony Joshua. So this wasn't a one-sided blowout. This was a tough, fairly close fight. And a rematch would be an interesting proposition. And for me, it's the fight that makes sense on every level. We found out that Klitschko still has it in the tank. He is not grown old overnight like so many people said in the Tyson Fury fight. He's still agile, quick, powerful and skillful. So it's possible if they can arrange a rematch for, say, August, Klitschko could be hungry and ready to avenge that defeat, whereas Anthony Joshua knocked down fairly heavily for the first time. He got over that, he got up, he fought through, he struggled, he was frustrated, but he still managed to close the show with some massive knockdowns in that 11th round, and then got the referee to put Klitschko out of his misery. So they both have things to prove in this rematch. We know that it sold incredibly well. Live, 90,000 people were in attendance. It sold pay-per-views all around the world. There was a massive buzz for it. So a rematch, I believe, would be exactly the same. So that's the fight that I would like to see. 2017, a rematch between Anthony Joshua, Wladimir Klitschko, and do it again at Wembley Stadium. So have you got any thoughts on that? You got any thoughts about the potential candidates that Anthony Joshua could face next? Who you think is the most likely? I would love to hear from you in the comments section below. Remember, if you're new to the channel, please consider hitting that subscribe button, because there'll be plenty of videos coming every single week. And if you're already a subscriber, thank you for your continued support. Have a great day, and let's look forward to the big heavyweight fights in 2017.